Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about everything that I read in July despite how busy it was. I read 6 books in July, and actually it's kind of 5.5 because the last one is a novella and I kind of just wanted to round up my reading month. Um, but July was so busy. I had so many bookish events in July, which I've shown you some of them in one of my previous videos. I'll link it so you can watch it if you haven't. But it's been so busy, and which is good because, it's summer, we have to get out, it's sunny-ish. But yeah, I'm not used to having so many events in one single month. And I think August is about to be just as busy because we're starting with Bookfest. That just happened today. So obviously I had Rare London, where I saw so many authors that I've never heard of before, and it was really interesting to just be able to chat with them. I saw Liana de la Rosa as well, which love her books. I had the summer romance event, which I made a video about. I had the Jolie Soto and Molly X Chang panel. I had, we had the Big Staff Mixer, which was also really fun. I've made a video about that as well, so you can check it out. And what else did I have? I swear I had even more than that. But hey ho, if I can only remember those, then they must be my favorites. But in between all those events, I still found some time to read, which is crazy. But actually I have a 900-day streak on my story graph because I try to at least read one chapter per day, and I almost always manage. I think there's maybe only once that I've fallen asleep halfway through a chapter. So I had to log it in the next day how many pages I actually read, but most of the time I get through at least a chapter, even just like with the commuting. And if it's on the weekend, I'll obviously have more time to read, so I make time for it. But yeah, I only read 6 books, but I read 6 books, and those 6 books were really fun. They were really long, and so let's talk about them. The first book that I read in July, which I think I finished in July rather than read the whole way through, was Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. This is a standalone sequel to Not in Love, where we follow new characters that we have met some of them in Not in Love, and it is basically a whole entire trip in Italy to follow Not in Love's couple's wedding, which is pretty disastrous if you go by, standard wedding rules. But Problematic Summer Romance was really fun. This is an age gap. It is problematic, as you can tell from the title. In this one, Maya is 23 and Connor is 38. And Connor is her brother's best friend, colleague, boss. Yeah, this doesn't fare well. I think they're all equal level in the company that they work for, but he's the managing director, so take with that what you will. But basically it all happens when Maya is trying to get hold of her brother, and instead is redirected to Connor, and they start talking that way basically. But Connor has some of the best self-control that I could ever imagine anyone having, in more ways than one, and you'll find out when you read it. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I think quite a few people said that Connor was the one that was acting like a child and Maya was the adult. I would say that it was very clear just how many people around Maya were treating her like a child, even though she was a full-grown, super intelligent adult who had gone through her share of traumatic past as well, and so shouldn't be just coddled. And people around her weren't necessarily understanding that. But I guess it makes sense because they were all there when she was a child and going through that traumatic stuff. So they were very much parenting her, and parents just see you as a baby no matter how old you are. But I didn't necessarily think that Connor was acting as a child. I think he was really trying to restrain himself for the feelings that he had for her, and just really trying to not act on them because he knew that it was going to become a disaster. So as a 37-year-old watching this debacle happen, I could not see myself falling for a 23-year-old. But Connor, who's 38, made it happen, and you know what? I wish them all the best. I don't know whether this is one of those couples that, you know, you're like, yay, happily ever after, but also they probably will break up in 5 years. I don't know. We'll see. But I do love them together. I love the book. The banter was incredible in this book. Maya stands her own. She will not take shit for everyone, and I love that. The next book I read was Thorns and Fire by Helen Schurer. This is the second book in the Ashes of Tesmar series, and I read this. It came out on the 31st of July, and I was reading this mostly, but I also freaking love this series. But I was reading this mostly because I was organizing a read-along for Pan Macmillan, and so I had to read it and make sure that I had questions for throughout the book. And that reminds me, I need to check on how it's going because it's happening this week. It'll be just about to finish when I post this video, but yeah, I love this series, and I really enjoyed this book. You know how sometimes the middle book feels a bit like just a filler book? This is not it. So much happens in this book, so many brilliant plot points, so much growth in the characters, so much yearning, so much pining. Someone has some groveling to do in this one, and it's just, yeah, it was so much fun. So basically this is part of the Ashes of Tesmar series. It comes after the Legend of Tesmar series, which starts off with Blood and Steel. So that series has 4 books in it, including a standalone book that you kind of have to read before the 5th book, which is called Slaying the Shadow Prince. And then after the Legend of Tesmar series, there's a 5-year gap after the war, and then it picks up with Iron and Embers, where we follow Ren, the sister of Tia, who was the main character of the Legend of Tesmar. We follow Ren as she goes to an alchemy academy to learn how to become a master alchemist. Previously, we knew her at the start of the book as the Poisoner, because she took her own form of revenge on the people that had acted funny during the war, the Shadow War. And as we see her arriving at the academy, we also see her get a protector, a war sword protector, Torge. Torge has been having crush halfway in love with her for past 13 years, ever since he laid eyes on her. But the thing is that in the past 5 years after the war, I wouldn't say they became enemies, but he was definitely very angry with her because of the way that she chose to use her 5 years, and taking upon herself to take revenge on people by herself with no protection. So the first part of the book, where she arrives at the academy and he has to look after her, is a little rocky. I'm not gonna lie. It's quite entertaining to watch. It would feel shit for them. But in Thorns and Fire, basically, we see their relationship evolve. We see some characters come back. We also meet some new characters. And things in the mid-realms kind of start to bubble up. People aren't too happy about the way that things have gone, and you can feel it and you can really see it evolve throughout the book. And yeah, I really recommend this series. And if you've just heard about this series, you can't join the read along, but I had so much fun doing it. I have separated the book into 6 or 7 sections, I think, with lots of questions and just things to get you talking about the book. I also made a character quiz, which was really fun to do. And all of that will live forever on the story graph. So actually you don't even have to do it as we're doing it. But you can always read it in 2 months, catch up on the series, and then go back on Storygraph. And once you'll be reading Thorns and Fire, you'll be able to find a read along on there. So I really recommend it because I had a lot of fun doing it. So I hope you can tell. The next book I read was Wrath of the Dragons by Olivia Rose Darling. So as you'll remember, I read Fear the Flames a couple months ago. I don't remember when I read that. Maybe May, April, June? You tell me. Anyway, I read Fear of the Flames and I absolutely adored it. And I was really shocked to know that I had never heard of this book, but the sequel was out in July, so that was really handy because I didn't have to wait that long. I was also really lucky because I got an ARC on NetGalley by Zafre, so I didn't even have to wait even longer, so that's great. It does mean that I have to wait extra long for the next book now, but it's fine, I'll survive. It's fine, whatever. Okay, Wrath of the Dragons was another epic sequel. I really enjoyed it. Fear the Flames was amazing, and I love a dragon. I love a dragon book. I love a fierce main character who takes shit from no one. In Wrath of the Dragons, we see her relationship with her dragons evolve and get better. We see her become the queen of dragons that everyone had really hoped that she would be. We see things escalate. This book, I'm reading a lot of war books, which probably says a lot about my current state of mind and the current state of the world. But you know what? In fiction, I can control it. So we're enjoying that. Yeah, for now. At some point, I'll only be reading cozy fantasy, I think. Things, like I said, things heat up, things escalate, and we see just everything going not wrong, but also not right. Not everything is going perfectly or as it should be. And the ending had me absolutely gasping because what do you mean I have to wait for the next book? It should be readily available. I'm so sorry to the author. I know that you're working so hard on it, but I need it. Please. Hopefully I can read it soon. The next book I read was The Hoard of the Shadow King, which is by Zoe Draven. This is now the 3rd series by Zoe that I've read. So actually, the 3rd series that I've started. I have read every single one of the Brides of Kalilor, which I've talked to you about already in my Marriage of Convenience video, but also because I read one recently because it just came out. I've also read another one of the Hoard's King series. I didn't necessarily enjoy it, but I didn't put that on Zoe. I put that on the story itself because I really enjoy Zoe's writing. And I was told that this one, The Hoards of the Shadow King, was a completely different series that basically takes place like 50 or even more, 100 years after the one that I read. So I do think that I might go back and try to read that series again, or, you know, for the first time, but give it another shot just so I can have more information on this one, because I really enjoyed this one. And in the first series, humans are getting onto this planet of aliens for the first time, and the first book is the first human to get with one of the alien. Whereas in this series, the female main character is actually a great descendant of the first wave of humans that came on the planet. So ever since then, basically, the aliens and the humans have completely melted their genetics together and have really been integrated onto the planet. And it's lovely to see. And the main thing that made me read this book now is that it had dragons. I just really like dragons, okay? I am in a dragon mood at the moment. I don't know why. Maybe because they are like so fantasy that it is so outside of this world, that, you know, they're not real. But yeah, I don't know. I was feeling dragons, so I read dragons. What do you want me to say? But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Basically, this is a marriage of convenience. The main character is from another continent on this alien planet, and the two continents have had their issues for ever, literally forever. And so, but they need something from each other. So one continent has dragons and the other one has potential magic that would be able to find something that both continents really need in order to survive. However, the continent that has the magic doesn't actually know what they're looking for, and they have the dragons, the power, and they have the knowledge of what they're missing. So he comes with all his dragons and comes to basically kidnap her because she has the power, but she's been hiding it from the people on her side because she has seen how people with power are used, especially her mother, who was killed for having that power. So she goes along with them because she has so many questions, and also dragons. She has been seeing the dragon in her dreams, so she instantly recognizes the dragon, and she's like, oh, wait, I want to know why you're in my dreams. So she goes along with him. And this has a bit of a fourth wing storyline, but they came out at the same time, so I'm not saying anything. It's just I'm just comparing. It has the same thing of her needing to get better, stronger in order to bond with a dragon of her own, because he says that the people of the continent will never accept her if she doesn't have her own dragon. And so you see her go through the day of doing all the exercises with the rest of the school to get better, and some people have been doing it for 10 years and she's expected to learn in a month. So because of that, her fiance also teaches her throughout the night and has his own exercises that he wants her to complete in order to just make her that much stronger, and he knows exactly what is going to be needed. But throughout, we learn a lot about the world. We learn things that I'm sure there was mentions of throughout the previous series, but that I wasn't privy to since I haven't read it. But there's a lot of lore, there's a lot of just things happening, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of mediations between the two continents and wanting to create a peaceful world. And yeah, so I think I really enjoyed it. They were a little bit faded, I think. It's not actually said in those words, but you kind of see it happen, and yeah, it was nice to see. And it was a bit less instant than the book that I have read from the previous series, so I enjoyed this one a lot more. The next book I read is the one that you may or may not have seen me cry to, because I did a read with me for an hour, and it turns out that it was the saddest moment of the book. I'm so sorry. Also, you'll notice that I've put makeup on today, and that is because I subjected you to my morning face last time. So I made an effort today, so I hope you notice and like it. But yeah, I've already told you a little bit about this book. If you haven't seen this video, I'll link it here. But basically, this is a dystopian fantasy romance where we have humans, kinetics, and what are they called? Elementals. And basically, the kinetics and the elementals have been at war. And again, oh my god, they have been at war, and because of their powers and how intense the fighting has been, it has kind of obliterated the world as we know it, and the humans have had to go and live underground in order to continue and survive. And the war between the kinetics and elementals continued way after the Devolution Day, which was the day that completely obliterated the power grid from the planet. And the main characters are the princess of the kinetics and the prince of the elementals. And basically we see how those dynamics work out. I really enjoyed this book. This was a recommendation that Emmy Reads had on her page. I really enjoyed it. I had a really great time, and it was really interesting to see the different powers and the way that the dynamics were working. I'm really interested to read the next book. I think it's out in November, but there is a prequel series, I think the next book is out in November, but there is a prequel book to read that Emmy was explaining. You have to read it after reading the first book because it makes a lot more sense. So I'll definitely be reading that and then diving into the second book when it's out in November. I really liked the dynamics of the couple. This was true enemies to lovers with multiple moments of them trying to kill each other, or at least her trying to kill him. There was some secret identities. There were a lot of plot twists. I just really enjoyed the series. The moment that I was crying in the other video was because we found out something about, well, we already knew, but he was having a discussion with her explaining what he had gone through as a child, and it was just very, emotional. The one thing I would say that I don't necessarily like, or that bothers me in dystopian books that I've read so far, and I haven't read a lot, so don't quote me on anything, but you know, whenever the book is happening in the US and they talk about how the entire world has been impacted and how this is the end of the world as we know it, but they don't show anything other than that region of the United States, how do you know that the rest of the world was impacted when there's no communications that exist, but somehow you know that, I don't know, Australia, that is so far from the United States, is also impacted? And that bothers me, because, you know, like in The Handmaid's Tale, for example, this all happens, that story happens in the United States, and you can clearly see that the other countries, yes, have a far right white supremacy thing happening as well, but they're not at the stage that the US is happening. there are still functioning societies. So why, yeah. So I feel like if you're writing a dystopian book and you are saying the words, the entire world is impacted, you need to show me proof of how you know that that's happening. Because otherwise, I'm just going to think that you're the typical American with a belly button centered intention, and you have just pictured that because America is down, that the rest of the world has to be down, because how could we ever survive without you? Okay, I'm done ranting. But like, yeah, that bothers me. It did not bother me enough not to enjoy this book though, so definitely go and read it. If you haven't, I had never heard of it. Probably would have never picked it up just from the cover alone, personally. But I had a great time, and it was on Kindle Unlimited as well, so yeah, definitely recommend it. The next and final book that I read is Taste. It's a novella, and it was really fun. It was kind of crazy. In Taste, we follow a vampire who has been a vampire for 150 years. When she was turned, she was a virgin, and ever since that she has been a vampire, she has not been able to have sex. It just doesn't work. She's not able to get aroused. She's not able to do anything of that sort. So she's a little frustrated. That there's one thing she wants in life, and it is not blood, weirdly enough. But blood is the only thing that will help her continue to be a functioning member of society. She regularly has parties where she compels people to come to her party so that she has some food to eat, basically. And at the first party that we see her organize, she meets a guy. And that guy is able to have sex with her. And she's living her best life. She is just absolutely having the best time of her life. But she doesn't understand what the difference is. Is it the guy? Is it because it's been 150 years? Is it because, I don't know, something else happened? She wants to figure it out, but she wants to keep doing it while she's figuring it out. So yeah, it's really, it's just a silly, fun novella. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I read it in just an evening. I think it was 70 pages long. So yeah, definitely an easy, fast read. So that's all I read in July. And yeah, I had a great reading time. I'm realizing that a lot of my reads right now are dark and fantasy and very war heavy. So I might switch over to some contemporary romance a bit more. We shall see, or not. I don't know. We'll see where my mood takes me. As a mood reader, I have a really hard time of making a TBR list for that month. So that's why you've never seen that from me. But so it's not gonna happen. And I don't even know. I finished my book last night. I have no idea what I'm gonna pick up today to read. Absolutely no clue. We will see where the mood takes me. But thank you so much for reading. If you have any questions on any of the books that I talked about, let me know in the comments. And otherwise, I'll see you next week.